Hello and welcome. Thanks so much for watching this session. Really appreciate you taking the time to tune in. I'm Charles. I'm a developer advocate on the Google Cloud Developer Relations team, and I focus on G Suite. In this session, we're going to take a look at how developers like yourselves can build solutions with G Suite. So who's this talk for specifically? Well, really anybody who wants to build on G Suite. So whether you're a third-party developer, whether you're an ISV or a SaaS provider, and you want to integrate or build on top of G Suite, this will work for you. Also, you can be an IT developer or an admin, simply looking at new ways of getting more out of your G Suite investment. And then finally, it's also applicable to casual developers or business users who simply want to get more out of G Suite and work more efficiently. So let's take a look. And the reality is, in a session like this, we're not going to be able to cover everything on all the different ways you can build G Suite. It's a pretty big topic. So in this short video, hopefully this will be an inspirational overview for you. So for the next few minutes, we're going to take a look at all the opportunities G Suite offers developers. We're going to talk about why you would build on G Suite, what's in it for you, and then we'll talk about the platform at a high level, and then look at some of the key components that make up the platform, and then we're going to wrap it up with the next steps and how you can learn more and the actions you can take to get started. So let's jump into the talk. So, as you know, G Suite, it's really a collection of communication and productivity applications. It enables teams to create, collaborate, find content, and communicate better. So it's made up of all the popular apps that we know and love and rely on and use every day if you're a user, like Gmail, Calendar, Docs, Sheets, Slide, Chat, Meet, and more. With them combined, G Suite forms an intelligent workspace, which really helps fuel your individual productivity, as well as supercharges the way groups can collaborate. So out of the box, or should I say more specifically, out of the cloud, because G Suite's obviously been cloud since day one, G Suite as a solution really offers transformational impact for the way you and your teams can work. However, where G Suite really shines, where it becomes more powerful, is how you can integrate Google services and third-party services and apps like your own with G Suite to make it an even more intelligent workspace. And more intelligent because it can work the way that we need it to, the way we want it to, and with the apps that matter most that users love to use. Okay, so as a developer, where I really see G Suite is from the perspective of an extensible workspace as a platform. It's extensible where developers can innovate by building solutions that can extend G Suite functionality and integrate their own solutions. It's an extensible workspace where admins can discover solutions that enhance the way users work, the way their business works, as well as manage those applications with a set of central tools. And then, of course, for users, it's an extensible workspace because users themselves can customize it to make themselves more productive. So whether you're an ISV, whether you're an admin, whether you're an end user developer, G Suite is an extensible platform that provides us as developers an opportunity to redefine the way folks can work. Okay, so let's talk about the opportunity. What's in it for you? Why should you build on G Suite? Well, in sheer numbers, the developer opportunity is huge. Whether you're a developer who targets consumer scenarios, or you strictly focus on enterprise, or maybe even the EDU market, education, or a mix of all the above, with 6 million businesses using G Suite from small to large, over 90 million students with EDU licenses, and tons of consumers, obviously, the result is literally billions of potential users to reach with your applications and your solutions built on G Suite. So if you think about it specifically from the perspective of a third-party developer, an ISV or a SaaS provider, G Suite offers you the opportunity to meet users where they do a lot of work, where users spend a lot of time. That offers you a loyal following and a ready-built audience that you can integrate with your solutions. So by extending your solution to work with G Suite, you can introduce yourself to new audiences, potentially reach new users and new customers, while also improving the engagement and increasing the stickiness within your existing customer base. So also as a developer, of course, we want to build the best possible solution for our users. And by integrating with G Suite, you can combine the best of your app and services with the best of G Suite. It's that classic better together story where users don't have to juggle a bunch of disconnected apps. They can work naturally across business processes with a very unified experience. This lets you speed up business tasks, help avoid context switching between applications and windows and tabs and more tabs, while reducing copying, pasting activities, errors, all helping users stay more productive. So really unifying the way people can work. And then finally, as an ISV, it also gives you the ability to leverage what a user is seeing and doing in G Suite and build on that context with your solution. For example, a user looking at an email from a specific customer or a certain document in Drive, you can build on that context of the way they're working with your solution to respond with things like targeted results, relevant actions or activities that users can choose from that build intelligence into your solutions, obviously making that whole process more efficient, more effective for the user. Leveraging the context allows you to process flow more logically, keeps users engaged with the task they're working on, and actually makes users more likely to complete the tasks that they're doing simply because you've made it easier for them. Now, switch over for a second. If you're an IT admin or you work for a large enterprise and you're a developer, there's a lot of reasons why you want to build on G Suite as well, too. There's a lot of opportunity with the platform. The first one is you simply can make work flow better. So think about it. If you're simply trying to make automated processes or make users more productive, you can make workflow better. And that doesn't apply just like workflow type solutions, but really anything that you can automate that are processes that are redundant, repetitive, and can be sped up, simplifying the way people work. Another great opportunity with G Suite is it allows you to build solutions faster than if you built them from scratch. If you think about it, there's no need to reinvent the wheel, right? There's no reason to start from scratch when you built on a foundation of something that's pre-existing, especially when your user base is already comfortable working with it. So for example, say maybe you need to build a solution where you're gathering form input from users, right? You want to solicit some feedback, and then you want to capture that feedback, put it in a database, and then take action on that feedback. Sure, you could write that application from scratch, but why would you when you could do something like leverage Google Forms, capture the information in forms, push into sheets, then use the eventing model and the API of those applications, and then build something really reliable, really fast, all in a fraction of the time. So with G Suite, you can build faster by leveraging what the platform offers, iterate faster, ship faster, and solve problems with a lot more effort. And of course, saving time is saving money, and it's also time that you can repurpose with other projects and be more productive as well, not just making your users more productive. And then one other final point with around opportunity for enterprises is, saving time and money is great when you build on G Suite, but there's also, obviously there's nothing that you need to acquire. You already own it. It's already deployed. So there's really no additional cost. But also remember, as a developer, you get all the built-in goodness that comes with building on an established platform that you already have in production. So things like management and security, authentication, auth, right? All this is taken care of for you. Access to content, user group, roles, DLP, archive, all the things that it's kind of hard to do in your own solution. And with G Suite, we kind of just take it for granted it's already there. So building apps is not only faster, but it also comes with a predictable confidence as well by building on top of the platform. So why do I think it's a platform? Let's talk about what it means to be a platform. And really, that's kind of the key takeaway from this whole session is G Suite lets you build a lot of ways like a platform. So here's the case for it being a platform. So first of all, it starts off because it's really the hub of where users work, right? It's where they spend a lot of time. And in many ways, it's the UI into their work, right? And what makes it a platform is because developers like us can build on it with all the tools they need and all the hooks, the UI, the access to data, robust APIs, security, all those things to build better experiences. And it allows you to build solutions that are even more powerful than we at Google imagine. So again, if you think of Google out of the box, sure, it's a great productivity tool, but with developers and the platform, it's really the unlimited power of G Suite starts at what you build on top of it. Okay, so let's take a look at what I mean when I say platform. I keep throwing that word around a lot. And there's a lot of components within the platform and a lot of things to consider. One of the great things is really around the openness of the platform. And so the first thing to remember is the platform really starts with your data, right? Your data lives in a variety of formats across all your different applications. It could be inside of G Suite, outside of G Suite, or even both. You could actually store it in a spreadsheet, maybe a relational database, a non-relational database. It could be in Drive, third-party applications, web endpoints, web pages, structured, raw, doesn't matter, a whole bunch of different places. The neat thing about it is it's totally interoperable with the G Suite platform to get the information in and out, to work with that data. So unlock your data, bring it to the G Suite platform. At the core of the platform itself, in the center of the diagram you see here, the platform is really composed of several frameworks and a whole list of APIs that come along with it. So for the frameworks, we have things like add-ons and chatbots, and we're going to talk a little bit more about those. As far as the API goes, we got REST APIs for almost every single application in the platform. And so as a developer, it's these frameworks, these APIs that help you create integrations and extensions and customizations, as you see listed here on the right side of the slide, while leveraging the entire platform from top to bottom. So think about it. If you want to build an add-on for Gmail or a chatbot for chat, or access any of those APIs for products like Gmail or even Classroom or Cloud Search or Calendar or Drive or whatever the case may be, this is where you start, right here with the platform. Okay, now the beauty though of having a platform and all these frameworks and the open APIs is how you can leverage G Suite from other technologies. It's not just about G Suite, right? So one of my favorite things to point out is how naturally you can leverage things like Google Cloud to make this platform even more powerful. So if you think about G Suite as a UI connecting a GCP backend, think about that for a second. It's a familiar interface of G Suite with the phenomenal power and scale of GCP. And so with GCP, you have so many components to access. And again, richly integrated with working with a platform, there's many different components you can access. For example, like the AI platform. Imagine what you could build if you took Sheets as a front-end tool and then use things like the Vision API or the Natural Language API or the Translation API. Imagine the different ways you can interact with G Suite, your app, and all the data that combines with the power of ML with the platform. Another neat idea is the ability to really change the way folks interact with G Suite. For example, with Dialogflow, you could bring natural conversational experiences to users with Dialogflow. So this way, instead of writing a complicated user interface that users have to learn and understand, you could just front end your solution with, for example, like a G Suite chatbot with a backend of Dialogflow. This will let users just state commands in natural language and not in conversation in part of their chats and simply work the way that they would naturally work and communicate with each other while executing commands in your application. And then another thing that folks recognize obviously is G Suite's great for storing data. You can quickly put some stuff in a spreadsheet, for example, and be pretty powerful there. But obviously, if your app calls for more complicated or complex data, you want to have a little more horsepower. Things like BigQuery is another great tool from GCP that works quite well with G Suite. And this way you can pull in literally millions and millions of records of data from your solution, let users do things like analysis inside of Sheets, which is a tool they already know and familiar with, but still have that power of the back end. And then just rounding out the little logos on top of the platform under Google Cloud, we have a new candidate, a new one up there. I just wanted to call it kind of interesting. It's one called AppSheet. It's a relatively new acquisition. But the neat thing about it is it allows you to build applications for both web and mobile really quickly without writing any code. It's truly a no-code solution. But the neat thing is it hooks up on top of G Suite. So for example, you can store all your data inside of a sheet really easily in G Suite, but then connect it with AppSheet and create a really powerful application. I hear a lot of developers actually use that for prototyping or quick apps or some rapid application development, and it works super well. Okay, so but when it comes to infrastructure and runtimes, for over a decade now, AppScript has been the serverless JavaScript-based runtime that's powered G Suite extensibility. It's really easy to use, really easy to get started with nothing to install, nothing to configure, purely serverless. The neat thing about AppScript is it masks a lot of the complexities that developers face when handling things like authentication and managing projects and code. So with AppScript, really developers of all different skill levels can build workflows, menus, UI, automations, and more right inside of G Suite. However, we hear from a lot of developers, especially professional developers like yourselves, that while AppScript is great for a lot of use cases, they also want to build on other solutions and other stacks as well, too. And so we're making sure we open that up here quite a bit. And so we've done that for a while, for example, with the APIs that we offer in tools like Clasp. It gives you the ability to use your own languages and your own IDEs. But we're also now introducing something new, something we're calling alternate runtimes. And we'll talk a lot more about this further on in the talk, but essentially it's a new way that you can build G Suite add-ons using your own infrastructure and your own runtimes instead of AppScript. This way you can leverage your existing skills and investment and not to juggle multiple projects and languages and the like. And then finally, rounding out the stack overall, and remember what I said in the section on talking about the opportunities, is the fact that built into the stack is the ability to use things like Google Identity Management, the admin console for administration and security. All this stuff is just part of the framework that you get when you build on top of it. So a lot of that work is done for you. And then finally, when you build a solution for things like Sharing solutions, acquisition channel for developers, and a discovery engine for admins of solutions. We have G Suite Marketplace, which we'll talk more about in a second as well too. So that's the platform. So let's talk about a couple of the key elements of the platform in a little more detail. So I want to start with add-ons for a bunch of reasons. First of all, I think if you are an ISV, if you have a third-party solution, if you have a SaaS application, I think an add-on is kind of a must-have to really streamline the way users that work with G Suite can work with your application. It's really easy to build and a really good investment. So, however, if you've been working with G Suite for a while, you know that add-ons aren't necessarily technically new. They've been around for a while. In fact, with the editors applications like Sheets, Docs, and Slides, developers have built add-ons for a while to really extend the functionality of G Suite. In most use cases, it's to add new functionality to G Suite. And some of the use cases also, they want to build in somewhat of a limited manner some applications. But for the most part, it really helps enhance the way G Suite would work. But as you know, not all G Suite users just sit and use G Suite. Editors, not just the creating documents. And so we want to make sure they can use all of G Suite. And so one of the new things about the G Suite add-on framework is now it works across other apps as well too. And so this enables a lot richer integration scenarios for you as well too. So what does this mean now then? It's not just the editors anymore, but I can also write with Gmail, Calendar, and Drive, opening up a whole new world of possibilities of useful integrations, but also make it a simpler experience and a more consistent development experience to boot. We'll talk about that in a second. Okay, so building across more G Suite apps is great. And one of the other big highlights of the framework now is, as a developer, you only need to build one add-on, one project, one set of code, and run it across any of your G Suite apps to integrate with. So it'll interact in the app as you would expect, but again, you're only maintaining one project. So for example, if you want to build a conferencing app and you want to integrate with both Calendar and Gmail, because that sounds important, you can write and deploy just one single add-on, but get the impact of working across both apps and easily add more apps and extend it later with that single code base, that single project, that single add-on. So the new add-ons framework means also users get a consistent look and feel and experience across apps, which is also great. This way developers get a simpler, more manageable experience to develop and deploy it, while users can quickly use your apps neat and easily. Okay. So one of my kind of favorite things we added to the add-ons framework is this notion of a dedicated homepage. A homepage allows you to have a consistent presence inside of a G Suite add-on for your app that's not relying on anything the user's doing or any activity or document or email or content that's selected, which is kind of neat. So when a user invokes your add-on for the first time without a specific context or document or email selected, the homepage is the first thing they will see, kind of hence the name why we call it the homepage. And what this does is it gives your integration a starting point or a base state to return to within the application when nothing specific is going on in the application. And this is really helpful because you can use a homepage to do things like provide instructions to the user on how to use your add-in. You can display branding, you can collect inputs, add actions, or even a search feature, which is whatever is uniquely useful to the way your app works to really engage users to get more out of your add-on. If you look at the image on the slide, you can see here we have an example of where a homepage is being used as a search bar. So for example, if there is no context, we allow the user to quickly go out and find content without having to navigate off to the other application to do so. So the homepage is a super powerful new concept in building out a rich add-on experience. However, where the homepage is kind of generic, kind of a generic landing page, so to speak, the power of add-ons in G Suite is that they are context aware. This means that as users interact with G Suite, the context can be shared with the add-on, allowing the add-on to offer the best appropriate response in the context of the situation. So for example, as you see on the slide, we have a Gmail add-on that integrates with a CRM application. So if you think about this, when the user opens up an email, the way the add-on works is it's granted safe scope access to just that email item. So within that context, the add-on can then access content like the sender, the title, or the body of the email, and then programmatically inspect that content and look for useful items that a CRM app may want to use, like a customer name or an opportunity ID or some sales information about a customer. So if it finds information that's of interest, the add-on can then use it to fetch that data from its back end. In this case, we're using Firebase, and then it displays that relevant information to the user in what we call the card in the add-ons framework. So similar to how the home page works, but again, with context on how the user is working, this will work even if the user is not even aware that this is in fact a customer email. It'll just light up because obviously the add-on is working. And the neat thing is this same add-on, again, will work across all of G Suite, but also work differently within the context of the application. So here in Gmail, obviously it's looking at an email, but if I was in Calendar, it would be looking at an event item. If I was Drive, I'd be working with a specific document in Drive, et cetera. So you can see how it works. So context is a super powerful way of making these really intelligent applications. Okay, so a couple of neat things here. The same add-ons you write will also carry over to mobile scenarios for some applications like Gmail and for our calendar conferencing, and something we're going to extend to more of the suite in the future. But the super neat thing here is you don't have to write anything special or pull up any mobile frameworks to do this. If you want to write an add-on today, you write it real quickly, you declare it's for Gmail or calendaring, and then you're able to use that inside of a mobile scenario. So it's kind of neat, it just kind of works. So how do you build these things? As I've alluded to, the G Suite add-ons framework makes it simple for developers to build add-ons. The framework is nice because it helps you manage things like security scopes, capture the events, the actions, build out the homepage and the context cards with a whole host of UI widgets, all from a single Google Apps Script project. Within that single project, all you do is you configure a manifest file, which determines which of the applications and how your applications is going to work across the G Suite suite. So for example, if you're just targeting Google Calendar, you configure those settings in the manifest. But if you want to go back and add Gmail and Drive later, you can do that no problem. Just add those to the manifest and those will light up as well too. And so finally, when you're done, there's just one project, one application you need to push, and you push it up the G Suite Marketplace to distribute that, whether that's inside your organization or outside your organization. And we'll talk more about the Marketplace in a second. So I mentioned a second ago that you write the project though in Google Apps Script. And one thing we've heard from developers when they build add-ons is, often they have their own infrastructure, right? Their own development tool chain, the language of their own choice, code libraries, all that's already working and running and have it in one place. And they would like to continue to leverage that. They want to juggle multiple projects and multiple code bases. And so with that, we are now introducing something we're referring to as alternate runtimes. And so alternate runtimes will allow you to power your G Suite add-on with whatever backend you want to use. The way it works is instead of actually relying on AppScript, all you do is you make calls to any HTTPS endpoint on your platform, and you can actually create the add-ons. So the way it works technically is in the add-on manifest. What you do is you now associate each extension point with HTTPS endpoints instead of the AppScript callback function. The UI is still built on cards, which you pass back as JSON objects from your endpoints, but from your backend and not ours, which means you're using your own runtime and your own languages and your own stack. So pretty cool stuff. So what else is coming? A whole bunch of things, big investment area for us. In addition to alternate runtimes, other big changes are compose time and send time actions in Gmail. These are super neat. For example, with the compose time add-on, you can create an add-on now that will assist users in the authoring of emails. So you can do things like insert boilerplate text or adding pertinent data into the body of the email, making it easier for folks to actually send out emails with content that you produce, saves them time, also saves the accuracy. So you can take stuff from your backend solution and push it right into the body of an email for them. With send time actions, this is kind of neat and something a lot of developers have asked for, but it actually allows you as the edit and writer to take action once the user hits send on the add-on. And so the way it works is that action is sent, and then you can do things as a developer that are really useful that obviously maybe the user didn't know how to do, or for compliance reasons. So for example, you can ensure there's like a proper footer at the bottom of the email. Or you could do things like add classifications into the email that maybe the user would have forgot if they didn't actually sign it, things like confidential or attorney-client privilege. You can also do things like add a BCC record automatically to the mail. Again, users would probably forget to do that if you asked them to do it. This would be great. For example, maybe you're a CRM application and you want to have every customer record automatically pushed into your CRM as well as back to the customer. And then another common ask we've heard a lot of folks is they like the ability to be able to track emails that users send, track some of the content within it. So for example, someone opens a document or clicks on an attachment. And so what you could do with the send time action is actually add tracking pixel analytics right to some of the content within the email to make it easier. And so kind of neat. Another thing we're going to do around the add-ons is also have add-ons work with a new framework with the G Suite editors. As I mentioned, G Suite editors had add-ons for a long period of time. but it uses a different HTML service, which is kind of proprietary just to the editors. But now you can use the same framework, the new G Suite add-on framework, for all the editor apps, as well as Gmail and Calendar and Drive. So truly write once, deploy across the whole suite. Okay, just an example, I wanted to show you something that some of our partners are able to build. And one of my favorite scenarios here is from DocuSign. You're probably aware of DocuSign. They're kind of famous in the digital signature space. And so they built an add-on that really helps streamline the process and non-invasively help folks make sure they sign content in the digital signature process. So you've probably done this whether you've bought a house or you've had to e-sign for some documents where you have to, get the content and go to a different application and do different things with it. Well, here with DocuSign's add-on for G Suite, what you can do is once you get an email, the DocuSign application takes the context of that email and can understand, who's also received the email, and then also all the content with it, say a bunch of attachments, it could be legal documents, and allow you to pick which ones you want to sign, figure out who the other people you want to have sign that document, and automatically do it. And the neat thing about this is it allows you not to have to toggle back and forth or do all these different things. Once you've authenticated your environment with DocuSign initially, this just works really seamlessly, really natively. It's super huge. And so, I thank DocuSign for building this. It's a great idea for really helping people work faster through the whole e-signing, the digital signature process. So cool stuff. Okay, so once you've built your add-on, how do you get it in the hands of users? And that's where G Suite Marketplace comes in. And I want to talk about this right after add-ons because it's really important to get visibility for your solutions and get as many people deployed, many of those billion users as we talked about before. And so the G Suite Marketplace is the one place where you publish your application, and it gives you really global visibility for all the G Suite users. So that's consumers, that's business users, and really importantly, the G Suite administrator, who's the folks that actually can really deploy your application in bulk and do a domain-wide installation of your solution. So the marketplace allows you to reach global audiences and generate new sales opportunities, really effectively and really easier, probably better than you can do on your own if you're trying to market and produce your own solution. All right. One of the neat things it allows you to do once you're listed is it allows users to come up and browse by different categories, see what's popular, what's the top rating ones, as well as read reviews on your solutions, which really helps you stand out. But the listing process is pretty straightforward, which really makes this an essential to do in kind of the final step of getting the widest possible audience for your add-ons and for your integrations. Just to give you an idea of the impact, as I mentioned already, the 2 billion plus users that are currently using G Suite have resulted in over 1 billion app installs already from the marketplace. And you can see the counts up there on a lot of the popular apps, and some of them are in the tens of millions and higher. So with over 1,000 apps currently listed in the marketplace, developers around the world, both small and large, have been able to find success of reaching a new audience by using the G Suite Marketplace. Finally, I also wanted to point out, if you're an IT admin or you're an IT developer and you're not really interested in conquering the world with your application, but it's just geared for your organization, the G Suite Marketplace plays a really important role for you as well too. It's not just for third parties to deploy their solutions. It's really for anybody who wants to manage and distribute an application throughout their organization. So for admins, the marketplace is a great place for you to discover new tools. Instead of building things, you can buy things, or also sometimes find free tools available that you can discover and use in your organization. But it's also where you will deploy your own solutions that you can distribute across your application for internal domain-only distribution. So a neat way of doing it. This way, when you publish a solution, only the users in your organization obviously will be able to discover it and have access to it. But you can even target that where you say, I want to do this for my entire domain, or just certainly use OUs to reach users within your organization. So very important distinction there. Anyway, so let's switch gears for a second then. Let's talk about another neat developer opportunity. And this is one of my favorite. I think it's kind of maybe a little underestimated what it's really able to do, and that's chatbots. I think chatbots, as more and more teams start to use chat as a real-time communication form inside G Suite, you're going to discover that chatbots are really a great way of bringing automation and actions and information right into the conversations your teams are having. This allows teams to not miss a beat in their conversations while completing tasks or query for information or interact with other systems like yours, all while keeping focus on what they're trying to accomplish, really around the art of the conversations that they're having with their other folks. It helps them stay in the moment on those conversations without having to switch context and potentially break the chain and get distracted or forget what they're doing. So it really helps them stay focused. For developers, chatbots offer an opportunity to include their solutions and conversations that surface them where users are working. So what you can do is, reduce the friction in actions, for example, make less steps, like marking a task complete or pushing out information with relevance. Like when a new task is assigned to somebody, you can pop it up right there inside the chat and notify everybody within that chat room. Chatbots become a really natural extension of the way users can work with chat. And so you as a developer, I think it's a great new paradigm, a new UI paradigm for you to connect with users with your backend integrations, all kind of seamlessly in the way this folks are working these days. If you think about it, people are less interested in sending lots of emails and chatting more and more. So I think it's a great place to be when you're thinking about integrations. Okay, so if you haven't played with chatbots yet in chat, I encourage you to do so. They're powerful even as a user, not just a developer, to allow you to do things. To use one, all you have to do is mention it to bring it into a conversation. It's really, really helpful. You can just join along and say, hey, for example, as you see on the slide here, maybe you and I are in a conversation with a bunch of people in a room. I can say, let's register a meeting next week. Instead of actually going off in the calendar and figuring out who's free and busy and doing all that calendar gymnastics and planning things, we can simply say, let's bring in the chat meet bot, say @chat, and then use things like natural language where we can say, chat, find us time to meet next week. And the chatbot will magically go out, check calendars of everybody in the room, bring back a few choices, and then let you pick one automatically without having to go back in the calendar and do all those calendar gymnastics. It's simple, it's easy, it's fast, and it lets you focus again as users having a conversation on the conversation in hand and not getting distracted by having to go off and do other things. So chatbots are pretty neat for that. Chatbots are not only great for performing actions though, but they're also great for pushing information out to users with notifications. So say for example, you want to let your users know when something happens significant with your application or your data on the back end. So say for example, you have an app for sales teams. You could create a bot that lets sales teams know maybe when an opportunity changes state or a deal closes or a customer is up for renewal. This way, since folks are working a lot in chat, you can put subtle messages out there or even less subtle ones and let them know what's going on within your application right inside where they're working. So they don't have to sit there and follow feeds or look at other places or triage through emails all the time. It makes it a really new, rich way of connecting with folks and letting them see how they can actually get information from your back end. So in the slide here, you can see one of the built-in ones called the Drive bot. The Drive bot lets you know any changes that happens within your Drive environment inside of G Suite. And so if, say, for example, another user requests access to a document that you own, you'll get a notification from the chatbot, and you could take action right there, like giving permission to that user. So this way, you don't have to actually toggle over to Drive and waste a bunch of steps to do it. You can do it right in context with what you're working. And since you always have chat on, or at least I do, it's a great place to land notifications for users that are plugged into chat. Okay, so like add-ons, there's a lot of third-party chatbots that you can build on. There's many leading SaaS providers, like you see here in the example of the slide is Salesforce. They allow users to really engage directly with in this case, Salesforce right inside of chat, once that initial authentication is done. So imagine what you could build here yourself. In this case of Salesforce, this is super neat. I actually worked on a sales team for a while, and it's amazing how much information and how convenient it is not have to always go over to another screen when you can quickly ask a question in a conversation and get feedback on it. So great job by Salesforce on this chatbot. And then finally, how do you build chatbots? Well, we have a framework for chatbots, as I mentioned, which helps you manage the events, the interactions with the chat room and the messages. It allows you to respond with things like simple text, or we actually have a more advanced card lookup to build more creative UIs like you see here being displayed in the chat. And because bots are G Suite, a lot of the heavy lifting is done for you. So you can use AppScript to build these out pretty quickly. Or of course, you could use your own backend to build them out with things like the webhooks we make available. So your choice, your call there as well too. Okay, so chatbots are another big investment area for us, and we're doing a lot with them. We're heavily building on chatbots as a future opportunity for developers. And so I encourage you to take a look at some of these new things. The first one is slash commands, which simply makes it easier for users to engage your bots without having to know all the commands you offer. They can just strike a slash, and you can actually give them some insights on what they can choose from versus them having to remember these things. Makes that super helpful. Another thing is a richer UI with dialogues. So chats, instead of just being conversation to the user, you can also collect information and insights from them right inside chat and do some interesting things in your backend to give you a better layer of interactivity with your bots. And then finally, we're also making sure that bots work more freely across all the different types of conversations. So DMs, rooms, et cetera, going forward will be across the platform. Okay, so at the core of the G Suite platform, though, is app scripts and the G Suite API. Right? We talked about the infrastructure and runtimes. For the sake of time, I'm not going to go too deeply into both of these, as you probably already have experience with those if you've been around our platform or looked at it for a while. AppScript has actually been around for about 10 years, and I mentioned a little over 10 years. However, if you're not super familiar with it, it's really worth a deeper look. For example, AppScript makes it just so super easy to get started. It's almost hard to not want to play with it. There's nothing to install, nothing to configure. It's all run server side. It's all based on the very popular language JavaScript. So the chances are most folks already have a leg up on learning how to use this, and the curve is so super low that you can be effective right away. Built in right into the product, it offers its own IDE right inside of G Suite. So this stores the project source code right inside a drive for you. So again, it makes it so easy, so powerful, and so natural just to build on top of it. The type of solutions you can build with AppScript range from the very simple to the very sophisticated. For example, you can build a custom function in Sheets or a quick automation that simply saves some steps. But you can also create custom UIs or gather user inputs or add automatic triggers that run code on a timer job, all the way up to full-blown applications like we talked about with things like add-ons and chatbots that use any number of Google services or your own third-party services and data on the back end. Most commonly, you'll see that folks target Sheets, as you see here in the slide, to build scripts out that automate a lot of the business processes you can do around Sheets. Another neat way to get started, say you're maybe a more novel developer and haven't done a lot with JavaScript yourself, is we actually have something in Sheets called the macro recorder, which will actually allow you to write code automatically based upon the actions you're taking within the product. So a great way, an easy way to get started with AppScript. One of the neat things about AppScript is it really democratizes the development of solutions on the G Suite platform. As I mentioned, you don't have to have robust development skills or even aspirations to get a lot done with AppScript as a product. It allows folks that are more business focused than developer or IT focused to build their own solutions. This means that folks that really understand the business angle well, but maybe aren't a pro developer in waiting, they can actually learn how to build some of these things pretty easily and be pretty successful without a lot of effort and without a lot of time. In fact, many of the utilities that we see, or many of the AppScript tools and utilities that folks create are not by professional developers. They may be 100 lines of code or less, but nonetheless, they solve key business problems and they're great solutions. So, as I mentioned, AppScript is somewhat targeted at that citizen developer persona. So for that, we offer tools and templates to get anybody started. So there's a great community of experts out there. They support us in user forums with question answering and libraries and examples and open source projects, and it really allows anybody to jump in this and kind of be proficient. And of course, speaking to the pro dev who's listening, of course you can use AppScript as well too for quick wins. Right? It's like, why should you over-engineer something if you can use AppScript to do things like rapid prototyping, or even build a full-blown solution, like as I mentioned, and on our chatbot. The value is you can get a lot more done a lot faster using it, and so there's no need sometimes to pull out the full set of tools when you can do a lot with AppScript. However, obviously, as most professional developers will let they've got their own team preferences, their own personal preferences for what tools they build and use. And so if you really want to build a full-blown solution on G Suite, that's when you turn to the APIs. You can use your own languages, you can use your own runtimes, you can bring your own code editor. All of that is super important to developers. And obviously with the APIs, you can get at almost every nook and cranny programmatically that G Suite has to offer. So the neat thing is we've got this full collection of APIs. It allows you to leverage the best of G Suite. Really from the way that you work best and the way it works best. So you can check out all the documentation. All the different APIs are up there, super important, at developers.google.com/G Suite. Okay, so I know it was a lot. I know that was super fast. Hopefully you saw a few things to get excited about. Hopefully you understand the opportunity is pretty huge. So let's kind of sum it up. So, we've covered all the key topics, G Suite add-ons, the marketplace, chatbots, AppScript, and all the APIs. Each of these present an opportunity for both ISV developers, professional developers, as well as admins and less technical developers to build solutions and manage integrations across G Suite. For the very one link, if you want to get started, the very first step, the biggest takeaway that I can share with you is go to developers.google.com/G Suite. You can see everything we're talking about up there. It's a great starting point. We're also interested in getting feedback for folks that are interested in more or want to tell us what they want to do with the platform or how they're working with it. So look for the form up there. You actually can engage us and give us some of those insights. Super helpful. On that site, you'll find a lot of in-depth content about all the components we've talked about today. One of the key things I'd love to point you up to there are our quick start guides. We've got some code labs. We've got a bunch of videos that you can start off and get working for. For admins, make sure you take a look at the G Suite Marketplace from the cPanel, and you can see I've got a support link up there that you can see on the left-hand side under Explore, Learn, and Build, which tells you all the things you can do to manage all these applications inside your organization. So super helpful. Okay, so finally, once you've learned what you need to learn, the next thing is to make sure you go out and you list your application. Again, I mentioned G Suite Marketplace, simple and straightforward to get started and push it out there. If you're an admin looking to discover new apps, again, same tool, same environment, use the G Suite Marketplace. You can do that. And finally, in closing, one thing I want to suggest is give us feedback, engage with us, let us know what's going on. A couple things. We have a program right now that we'll be running for the editor add-ons. We have an alpha out there. We want to encourage folks to engage in that. So again, on the developers.google.com/G Suite site, you can see how you can sign up for that. We also want you to build a chatbot. Like I said, they're so super cool. I think they're a little underserved by the community, and we encourage you, if you're building solutions today, is go off and look on how you build your chatbot. Again, there's a quick short link there under building a chatbot. And then finally, we've got a nice little UI tool to help you build really neat, really engaging add-ons for G Suite. There's a sticker sheet up there under that kind of long address. Again, you can find all these on our homepage, but that's a great place to go learn what are some of the neat UI constructs you can build. So in summary, I want to say, first of all, thank you so much for your time. If you made this far, I really super appreciate it. I really look forward to you building on G Suite. And with that, really appreciate your time. Best of luck.